The night smelled of smoke and panic. A local bakery on Daniel Street was in flames, with screams echoing as the fire spread toward nearby houses. While others froze, Daniel, just 23, rushed in without thinking. "Get the children out!" he shouted, pulling a boy through the smoke. Neighbors yelled at him to stay back, but his courage carried him deeper inside. By the time the fire brigade arrived, Daniel had saved 3 lives. Cameras from bystanders captured everything. By morning, his picture was on every phone screen in the community WhatsApp groups. The golden boy of Lagos. Old women blessed him at the market. Children followed him, imitating his daring run. Even the local pastor said during Sunday service, "God has raised a hero among us." Daniel smiled humbly on the outside, but inside he was glowing. That night, as he lay on his bed, he whispered to himself, "Maybe I was born to be more than just ordinary." The applause had lit a fire inside him, one he didn't yet understand. The following week, Daniel was invited to a youth meeting. The chairman, Mr. Tunde, addressed him directly. "Daniel, you're the kind of leader this generation needs. Brave, honest. The people already love you. Why not lead our youth movement against corruption?" Daniel hesitated. "Me? I'm no politician." But the room erupted in support. "You're the one we trust. You save lives. Daniel, you can save this community too." Even Amora, his longtime girlfriend, looked at him with pride, though her eyes carried caution. Later that night she whispered, "Just promise me you'll remain you. Fame changes people. Daniel, don't let it change you." He nodded, but already, in his heart, a hunger was stirring. By the end of the month, Daniel was officially the youth leader. Posters with his smiling face spread across the community. The hero of the people. And Daniel began to taste something he had never tasted before. Power. Daniel's first real challenge came quickly. A corrupt local politician had been stealing funds meant for road repairs. Armed with evidence, Daniel organized a protest. The streets filled with hundreds of youths chanting his name. "Daniel, Daniel, Daniel." The media came. Cameras flashed. The politician was forced to resign. It was a historic win. That night, Daniel sat with Amora, who wrapped her arms around him. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it," Daniel corrected. But even as he said it, he secretly knew the cameras weren't on we. They were on him. Social media exploded with hashtags, #OurHeroDaniel. Radio stations invited him to talk shows. His phone buzzed endlessly. Everywhere he went, strangers called out, "Hero, leader, savior." And Daniel began to believe it. As weeks passed, Daniel's voice grew louder, not just in speeches, but in how he addressed his own team. "Daniel, maybe we should double-check the facts before," one of his friends suggested during a meeting. "Are you questioning me?" Daniel snapped. "If I say it's true, it's true." The room went silent. His followers exchanged nervous glances. Later, Amora pulled him aside. "You are too harsh, Daniel. They're your friends, not enemies." "They need to understand who's in charge," he replied coldly. That night, Daniel sat alone, replaying the protest videos of himself on his phone. His chest swelled. He saw himself not just as a leader, but as a leader. The golden boy was starting to cast shadows. It happened in a quiet cafe. A wealthy businessman named Chief Okoro slid into the booth opposite Daniel. "You've done well," Chief said with a smile. "You have influence. People listen when you speak. Men like you are rare, but influence without money is wasted." He slid a briefcase across the table. Inside was cash, stacks higher than Daniel had ever seen. "All I ask is loyalty. Support my projects, and I'll fund your movement. With me, you can rise beyond this little neighborhood. You can be a national hero." Daniel's hands trembled. He remembered Amora's warning, "Don't let it change you." He shut the case quickly. "I'm not for sale." But as he walked home, the weight of the money lingered in his mind. By the time he reached his apartment, doubt crept in. What if he's right? With more resources, I can do more good. A week later, Daniel met Chief Okoro again. This time, he didn't refuse. He shook the man's hand, sealing a deal that would slowly poison everything he once stood for. That night, Amora asked, "Did you see him again?" Daniel lied. "No." And just like that, the hero had taken his first step toward becoming the villain. Months passed, and Daniel was no longer just a golden boy of Lagos. He was now a man of influence. His face appeared on billboards, the voice of the people. He wore tailored suits, spoke at events, and was chauffeured in a black SUV. His once simple life transformed into one filled with interviews, dinners, and political meetings. At a rally, young boys held banners with his face. "Our hero!" they shouted. Daniel lifted his hand in acknowledgement, his smile practiced and confident. But his old friends struggled to reach him. Musa, who had been with him during the first protest, called 3 times in 1 week. Daniel never answered. When Musa finally met him in person, he said, "Brother, you're changing. You don't call, you don't visit." Daniel waved him off. "I'm busy building something bigger. You wouldn't understand." Later that night, Amora tried again. "Daniel, you're losing yourself." "No," he replied firmly, staring at himself in the mirror. "I'm finding who I was always meant to be." The crowd cheered louder. The spotlight grew brighter. But the boy who once saved lives from a fire was fading into the background. The youth group Daniel led was once tight-knit, built on trust and shared vision. But now, whispers of unease spread. One evening, during a meeting, Chaik, a young whistleblower, raised a hand. "Daniel, we need to talk. These businessmen you're working with, they aren't clean. People are asking questions." Daniel's eyes darkened. "Are you accusing me of corruption?" Chaik held his ground. "I'm saying we need transparency. We can't fight corruption with corruption." The room fell silent. All eyes were on Daniel. For a moment, he looked like the boy from the fire again. But then his pride surged. "Chaik, you're jealous. You want what I have. From today, you're out." Gasps filled the room. Chaik stood frozen as Daniel continued. "Spread lies about me, and you'll regret it." The next day, rumors spread online that Chaik was a traitor and working for the enemy. His reputation crumbled. Daniel's followers turned on him. Daniel told himself it was necessary, a small price to pay for the greater good. But in truth, it was the first time Daniel used his power to destroy, not protect. Amora came to Daniel's new office late one evening. The luxury shocked her. Leather chairs, expensive art, glass windows overlooking the city. "Daniel, this isn't you," she said, her voice breaking. "You're drowning in their world." Daniel stood, defensive. "I'm building a future, Amora. For us. For the people." "You're lying to yourself," she whispered. "You're not fighting for the people anymore. You're fighting for power." Daniel's voice rose. "Enough. You think you know better than me? You think saving lives is easy? Sit at home and play the humble girlfriend, but don't question me." Tears welled in her eyes. "You've lost a man I loved." As she walked out, Daniel slammed his fist on the desk, his chest heaving. But instead of guilt, he felt anger that she dared challenge his greatness. And that night, for the first time, Daniel didn't call her back. Daniel's face was everywhere. T-shirts, stickers, banners. Children recited his name in school debates. Some even prayed for him in church. At rallies, people screamed and cried just to touch him. Reporters compared him to the leaders who shaped history. But Daniel was changing. When a young volunteer tried to share credit for community success, Daniel cut him off during an interview. "It was my vision. Without me, none of this would exist." His ego fed on the worship. He started rewriting history, telling stories of protests he never led, victories he didn't achieve. During a meeting, Musa confronted him. "You weren't alone in this. Stop pretending." Daniel's gaze was cold. "Musa, if you don't like how I lead, leave." And Musa did. That night, Daniel stood on his balcony, looking down at the city lights. "They'll remember my name," he whispered. But deep down, the boy who once risked his life for strangers was long gone. The breaking point came with a new deal. The same corrupt leaders Daniel once fought approached him with a proposal. Join us, one of them said over dinner. End the protests. Work with us, not against us. You'll get resources, influence, everything you dreamed of. Daniel hesitated, swirling his wine glass. But the people don't need the truth. They need stability. And you will be their face of hope. The offer were poison, but sweet poison. That night, Amora tried to reach him again. Don't do it, Daniel. If you cross this line, you can't come back. But Daniel had already decided. He signed the papers, shaking hands with the very men he once called enemies. Days later, bulldozers tore through poor neighborhoods, displacing families because of the projects Daniel endorsed. Mothers cried. Fathers cursed his name. The community began to whisper, is he still our hero, or has he become one of them? And for the first time, Daniel heard his name spoken not with love, but with suspicion. It started with a headline splashed across the morning news. Hero or hypocrite? Evidence links Daniel to corrupt deals. The journalist, Adiz, had spent months investigating. She published leaked documents, contracts, and photos of Daniel shaking hands with the same men he once swore to fight. The community was stunned. Neighbors who once painted murals of Daniel now whispered in disbelief. His mother's church group fell silent when her son's name was mentioned. At a press conference, Daniel stood tall, his voice sharp. This is fake news, a ploy to destroy my good work. I am still your hero. But the damage was done. Clips of bulldozers demolishing poor families' homes, signed off by Daniel, played side by side with his speeches about protecting the weak. Amora, watching from her apartment, felt her chest tighten. The Daniel I knew is gone. The community's golden boy had been exposed. Instead of apologizing, Daniel went on the offensive. He called a rally, his voice booming over the microphone. Those attacking me are enemies of progress. They are jealous of what we've achieved. His followers cheered, but the crowd was divided. Some raised their fists in support, while others shouted angrily, "Liar! You betrayed us!" That night, in a meeting with his inner circle, Musa tried to reason with him. Daniel, admit your mistakes. People will forgive if you show humility. Daniel slammed the table. Never. If they doubt me, they are against me. Soon, posters appeared across the city branding critics as traitors. Whispers turned into fear. Activists who spoke against him received threats. Even Chaik, the whistleblower he silenced months ago, went into hiding. The boy who once stood up for the oppressed was now the one oppressing them. One evening, Amara came to see him for the last time. She entered his lavish home, gold-plated decor, bodyguards at the gate, a far cry from the small apartment they once shared. She stood quietly as Daniel poured himself a drink. "You've built yourself a palace," she said softly. Daniel smirked. "I built a kingdom, and you could have been queen." Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't fall in love with a king. I fell in love with a man who risked his life for strangers. Where is he now?" He turned cold, sipping his glass. "That man was naive. This is who I am now." She shook her head. "No, this is who you become. And I can't love a stranger." Amara left, slamming the door. Daniel didn't chase her. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, almost defiantly, he whispered to himself, "Heroes don't need love. They need power." But for the first time in years, he felt the ache of loneliness settle in. The people had reached their breaking point. Videos of Daniel's guards attacking protesters went viral. A clip of a mother crying beside her demolished home sparked national fury. The hashtags once used to praise him now cursed him. #Daniel the villain. #from hero to enemy. At the next rally, instead of cheers, he was met with boos. Eggs and stones were thrown. The crowd screamed, "Thief! Liar!" Daniel tried to speak over the chaos. "I am still your hero. You need me." But his words were drowned out. That night, news stations replayed the footage. His face, once shining with pride, was now a mask of desperation. Children tore down his posters. Shopkeepers erased his slogans. His name, once sung with joy, was now spat with disgust. The city no longer saw him as savior. They saw him as a villain. Daniel's world collapsed quickly. Sponsors pulled out. Friends abandoned him. Even his loyal guard began whispering behind his back. He spent nights in his mansion drinking heavily, replaying old videos of his glory days. "They loved me once," he muttered. "They'll love me again." But reality was cruel. His movements were met with protests. His attempts to rebuild his image failed miserably. In a desperate move, he called Amora, slurring his words. "Come back to me. I need you." Her voice was steady. "Daniel, you don't need me. You need saving from yourself." "Goodbye." The line went dead. Alone, Daniel threw the glass against the wall. For the first time, he saw his reflection clearly. Bloodshot eyes, trembling hands, a man consumed by power and paranoia. The hero was gone. All that remained was a shadow, spiraling deeper into the darkness of his own making. Daniel still had a handful of allies, the last people clinging to his promise of vision. Chief among them was Betrayal, his trusted right-hand man. Betrayal had been with him from the early rallies, often the one to whisper strategies in Daniel's ear. But even loyalty has limits. One evening, Daniel stumbled into a private meeting, drunk and furious. "They think they can turn the people against me. I made this city. I can destroy it," he slurred. Betrayal sat silently, watching his hero unravel. He had watched Daniel silence friends, betray allies, and ruin lives. Now, seeing the man reduced to paranoia, he realized Daniel was no longer a hero worth saving. A week later, confidential documents leaked online. Bank statements, secret recordings, photos of Daniel receiving cash-filled briefcases. The evidence was undeniable. Everyone asked the same question: who leaked it? Daniel suspected his enemies, but the bitter truth was that it came from inside his circle. His most trusted ally had finally turned against him. The streets erupted. Once again, crowds gathered, but this time not in Daniel's honor. They marched with placards, "Arrest Daniel now." Police trucks surrounded his mansion at dawn. He stepped outside in a designer suit, attempting to project calm, but his hands trembled. "You can't do this," he barked at the officers. "I am the hero of this people." One officer replied coldly, "Heroes don't destroy their own city. You're under arrest." The irony was crushing. Daniel had once led protests against corruption, and now he was handcuffed, dragged away before the same cameras that once adored him. Crowds jeered, throwing bottles as he was escorted into the truck. Someone shouted, "Villain!" Another, "Traitor!" The boy who wanted to save lives was now branded the enemy. The trial was the biggest media event in years. Cameras lined the courthouse. Journalists live-streamed every word. Inside, Daniel sat at the defendant's table, still in his expensive suit, but now with dark circles under his eyes. One by one, victims took the stand. A mother wailed about her children left homeless after Daniel approved demolitions. A whistleblower revealed how Daniel's threats ruined his career. Even Musa appeared, his voice heavy with disappointment. "He was my brother once, but power destroyed him." Daniel tried to defend himself, raising his voice. "I did everything for the people." The judge silenced him. "The evidence speaks louder than your words." The world watched as a golden boy was torn apart, piece by piece, until even his die-hard supporters struggled to defend him. When the gavel came down, declaring him guilty, the city erupted in cheers, not for justice served, but for a fallen hero finally unmasked. Daniel's prison cell was cold and narrow, a far cry from his mansion. The first nights were sleepless, haunted by echoes of chants. "Daniel, Daniel." Then, just as vividly, "Villain, traitor." He replayed his life like a broken film. The fire where it all began. The cheers, the love, Amora's smile, then the lies, the money, the arrogance. Sometimes he whispered to himself, "I could have been the greatest." But the walls gave no reply. His meals were plain, his clothes rough. No cameras, no applause, just silence. In the yard, other inmates mocked him. "Hero man, come save us now." Daniel lowered his head. For the first time, he wasn't angry. He was broken. The boy who wanted to be the hero now sat forgotten, a ghost of what he once was. Years later, Daniel's story was still told, but not the way he once dreamed. Parents used his name as a warning to their children. Be careful of pride. Remember Daniel. Universities studied him as a case of corruption by power. Documentaries painted him as a cautionary tale. One mural remained on a crack wall, an old painting of Daniel as a golden boy. Children passed by, pointing and asking, "Who is that?" An old man replied, "He wanted to be a hero, but he ended up the villain." Meanwhile, Amora, older now, visited the city once in a while. She never spoke his name, but whenever she saw his faded posters, she whispered a silent prayer. May he have found peace. Daniel lived out his final years in quiet obscurity, forgotten by most, remembered only as a warning. And so the hero's tale ended, not in glory, but in tragedy, a man who had everything and lost it all.